I'm going to go back around a little bit to you mentioned the Super Bowl ad.
Yeah.
So you talk about the married couple. What would you say to students who wanted to respond to that? So what would your response be to something like that? What is wrong with that construction?
Okay. Well, I'm gonna deviate a little bit and then come back to the actual answer, because there was a response made by somebody to the most egregious of the Super Bowl ads this year. There was a Dodge Charger ad in which it starts off with a series of men who are completely drained of affect. They're just staring into the screen, and the voiceover says things like, "Yes, I will watch your vampire movies with you. Yes, I will be nice to your mother. Yes, I will take the dog out for a walk. Yes, I will put the toilet seat down." And then the music swells and he says, "But I demand my right to drive the car that I want." And so it's Charger, blah, and then it says, "Man's last stand." It's like, really? First of all, was that such a hardship, all those other things you were doing? And secondly, you need this big truck in order to compensate for all your pain and suffering. This is the man's last stand. So I'm appalled at this ad. And then actually somebody told me that a female documentary director made a response to it. And it's the same format. It's these women, affectless women, staring at the screen saying, "Yes, I will laugh at all your jokes, even if they're not funny. Yes, I will tell you that size doesn't matter. Yes, I will put up with your smelly loser friend who crashes on our couch." I mean, she just keeps going on and on and on. And then she says, "And yes, I will sit at the Super Bowl and watch incredibly sexist, misogynist ads and not say a word because you have such a fucking hard life." Well, I thought that was a pretty good response. I mean, so really, one of the responses is to create your own media, and you can do that. Obviously, that's how YouTube started. It wasn't really to put illegal, things shot with your camera phone on there. It's really supposed to be to create your videos, and so people can do that. I mean, what I've said to the students that I talked about, and there were about 4 ads that were like this, is you show them the ad and you say, well, what did you see? What was the problem here that needed to be resolved?
Yeah.
What are they trying to? What are they communicating to you? Obviously, buy a truck. But what's the premise of this? And so actually, I find Aristotle very valuable. Ethos, pathos, logos, and the enthymeme. What's the argument here? And I use print ads in class, and I distribute them and say, identify the syllogisms and the enthymemes in this ad. And of course, most advertising is not syllogistic; it's enthematic. So, so they discover for themselves. And it seems to me that these 4 ads, it wasn't just that they were misogynistic, it was that they portrayed marriage as a complete dead end. It was like, okay, when you get married, you're going to have to go shopping, and you're going to have to pay attention to her petty little rules. And I think one of them said something about have your spine removed. So, really? That's what marriage is about? That just seems sad to me, that's what they think relationships are. So that's how I use them.
I want to ask you a question that, in a way, you've answered right now, but in a way, I think maybe it's not true, but let's try to figure this out. You wrote, I think, in the early 90s, using some of these magazine ads, about cultural hegemony in magazine advertisements,
right.
Particularly women's depiction and so on. Has that really changed? You mentioned the YouTube example of trying to counteract it,
right.
But has magazine ads, has the cultural hegemony just continued to flourish? And is that the Madison Avenue strategy, or what's happening? Or do you think that, as a communications scholar, researcher, working with students, we've turned the corner on that process?
Certainly in terms of advertising, there has been a great deal of change, but it's shocking how much it stayed the same as well. So in terms of both print advertising and television, you see many more people of color. In some countries, not the United States, you see homosexual relationships depicted or transsexual relationships depicted. So you do see a change, some sort of shift. On the other hand, you still pick up a magazine today that is aimed at women, And you usually have to go through sometimes 20, 25 pages of ads for makeup and fashion. And the ads for makeup and weight loss, I think, are particularly disturbing because advertisers have found increasing ways for women to be dissatisfied with what they look. I mean, I remember when teeth whitening products came onto the market, and I remember, thinking, really? We've lived all this time and we didn't know that our teeth weren't white enough, and now we have to put these strips on our teeth? Did this just happen? Did our teeth get darker, or did we just decide that this was something else that we needed to pay attention to? And so, to that extent, I think women are still being told that their primary value is in their beauty and in their size and in how they look. Look at the number of hair products that you have to do. And if your hair is wonderful, then the rest, is gravy.
Follows.
That's right. So to that extent, I mean, that still is going on. The other thing that I've noticed that hasn't changed is that I've yet to see a print or a film ad that has a man using a cleaning product. I mean, the person waxing the floor, the person washing the dishes. We see men cooking now, which is good.
Cooking.
But
Parenting.
not cleaning.
A little bit parenting.
Right, parenting, yes.
little
And pick up Parents Magazine. It's Mommy's magazine. It's not Parents Magazine, right? Occasional special feature on a dad. So to that extent, the assumption that women's primary value is beauty and that the primary parenting and the primary domestic care has to be a woman's responsibility is still being communicated. Again, that doesn't mean that we just absorb this. My husband does all the cooking and he does half the cleaning, and so things have changed. My father just sat at the kitchen table and waited for dinner to be, and that's just because that was normal. So I know that is shifting in practice, but it isn't shifting in terms of a lot of the messages that we see.